All righty. Welcome, folks. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 2/20/2025. Coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And so today, man, we're going to talk about Covfefe. In the end, we win. And you know what? There are some fascinating things going on. We're going to talk about government refunds. We're also going to talk about the spa, right? We got a lot of activity happening at Guantanamo Bay. And so, AKA the spa. We'll be talking about that one. And then, of course, as we look at those flights going in and out of that location, we're also going to be discussing all the other military activity around the world, things happening with the cartels and what that means to us. And look, before we get started, the one thing I did want to tell you was this show is sponsored by the Satellite Phone Store. You can jump over to sat123.com. That's sat123.com. And look, at the end of the day, we are all trying to find better ways to be able to communicate with each other, to not lose connectivity to those comms, because that indeed tells us everything we need to know what's going on in the world. And I will tell you, I have got my hands on one of their Starlink mobile devices, and this thing has Wi-Fi. It is so simple and easy. Let me just show you the size of this. It is not big, right? You'd think, okay, well, this doesn't have to be mounted on your roof. No, it absolutely does not. In fact, you probably don't want to. You can stick this in a window. If you are mobile, let's say, for example, I have my youngest is a police officer, right? And he does a lot of side jobs in his personal vehicle. And so he is sitting in his vehicle for hours upon hours. And so to give him internet connectivity, so he has, eyes on everything going on while he's just sitting there. And it's pretty amazing what can be done with these. You can use them for RVs, if you're going to NASCAR races, whatever it may be. This thing is plug and play. It is something you definitely want to have and add to your quiver. You can get it over there at the Satellite Phone Store. It is so simple to set up. No joke. This little deal here, you basically, it's got a little mounting stand comes with it. It has a boatload of cable to plug in for your power source, a little DC adapter there. But the nice thing is, because it is a DC adapter, you can actually use other device things. You don't have to use this piece here to get power to it. But look, you can literally plug and play. It's that simple. You go to your mobile phone, you grab your Starlink app, you find your satellite location, which are everywhere, and then you're off to the races. And so, and if you want to protect that device, or you want to have something to carry it around in, let me just show you. Bulletproof backpack. This thing is also a Faraday pouch, so it can protect your devices as well as carry them around. And so this little dealio is also at the Satellite Phone Store. Again, sat123.com. That's sat123.com. And they've got some killer deals going right now. You can see this one. Get a Starlink Gen 3 on them, 500 gig plan. And I will tell you, that is more than enough. I literally power my entire show using Starlink, and it has no problems. And I use a lot of pretty high-speed stuff, okay? But they got little packages going here. You can also see this one as well. And these are, again, it's a little mobile device. You can get these bundles, have all kinds of cool stuff. Like I said before, they are like the Q to James Bond. Absolutely amazing. All the little things they have. Also satellite phones, power devices, all kinds of really cool stuff that bundle with backpacks. Like I said, bulletproof backpacks, they are the wave of the future. And given today's environment, especially with us taking down the cartels, you want to have your family protected. You want to have your devices protected, right? So it's sat123.com. That is sat123.com, or you can give them a shout at the Satellite Phone Store, 1-941-841-0844, and tell them Monkey sent you, all right? Okay, so let's get into the deets of what is happening out there in the world. It is absolutely crazy as to just all the movement. We are less or right at 30 days of Trump being in office, and it's just staggering what we are witnessing, and it is absolutely a blessing to us. We've been waiting for it for so long, and it looks like we are finally getting to where we need to be. So I will tell you, let's, if we get in, we'll pop up over here into Skyglass. just to show you what the skies are happening right now, we're sitting at 206 up, and I've stripped out a sea of trainers. Now, it is very cold all across the United States. I'm talking record temp in terms of lows, but they're still flying, right? And so Tex 2s are 72. We got EC-45s, 23, Hawks, 19 of those, 15 T-38s, and then 7 EC-35s. It's a lot. You can see the high flyers. Now, many of the high flyers are not showing today. I only got one that actually showed up on my watch list, and I know we're tracking. There are 50 plus that are out and about. You can see some low ones for border protection, right? And then, of course, you can see Global X headed southbound. We're going to talk a little bit more about them. Now, if you look at the H-22 Blackhawks, 22 of those up currently. Doesn't look like a lot here in the training area, but in the Northeast and out here, very busy. And let's see, KC-135s. We'll just take a look at what's up on those. 17 of those currently up, 16 on screen. So one is over into Europe. Now, we do have, like I said, we got a lot of things happening, and we're just going to get into this because I think all of it is very interesting. There's a lot of dynamics happening. The geopolitical scene is off the chain, and then of course you've got a panic happening in D.C. So let's start here. Let's take a look at the flight activity. We'll start off over here in the intel side of the house. And, of course, we are still looking very closely at what's happening in South Korea. Remember, that president was arrested. Now, I don't know what his current status is, but the fact that he was arrested tells you a lot, right? And, yeah, it's because he declared martial law. It was his insurrection. And then, of course, they took him down. You see a little bit there off the coastline there, the west coast of Australia. It looked like he was headed south towards Perth. And then our usual suspects over Europe, a little bit there over Romania, and then you can see over or off the coastline of Italy, and then off of looking closely at Libya over the Mediterranean. Now look at what's going on over Israel. I still think this is going to go hot. I think they are producing now dead bodies, so they don't have any more live captives, in my opinion, when they're releasing dead bodies. And then over the United States, too, you can see the intel community in and out of Tucson, in and out of Biggs Army Airfield along the southern border. And then notice some of these traces. Do you see this one that heads up kind of off of Bozeman, back and forth? That's probably doing one of those, if I was a betting man, a little SIG intel or recon in the ground there. Again, I still think we probably have some folks that have disappeared into the mountains that are very comfortable in the mountains, a.k.a. the Taliban. All right, but your Afghanis can migrate to that very easily. All right, now this is going to be your Q4 drones, Q9 drones, and even your low hangers like this one. That'd be probably a little Valkyrie off of over El Paso. Don't see anything down over Florida, nothing out over Mexico. But look at this over Pennsylvania. So if you're in Pennsylvania in that general area like Harrisburg, etc., pay close attention to that because they are certainly surveying your area. More than likely, we have some illegals that have been taken up there by the Biden regime, and that's what they're looking at. All right. Then you can see off the Gulf of Oman, and then up over Israel, over the Mediterranean as well. All right. So that's going to be your Q4s, Q9s, and then your low-hanging ones. Now let's talk. We're going to go sub-hunters. Just notice also over the Mediterranean, which is a little concerning, all right? Who are they worried about? And it looks like it originated out of England. And, of course, you can see these. Now, this is normal patterns. They're doing touch and goes at airports. They fly out of Jacksonville Naval Air Station, do a little, run some touch and goes. The stuff in the center of the U.S., maybe not so normal, but, and then off the eastern coast of Florida, coming out of Port Canaveral, really, and then a little blip of one there coming out of Washington State, but I don't see any indicator that they're looking at the underground stuff in terms of Mexico and the tunnels. All right, at least not over the last 2 days. Now, this is Australia. We're going to just dip down. I want to show you what's been happening down there because every time I go down, they wipe the flights. I don't see anything. There is a little bit of activity that goes out off the coastline. We'll talk more about that in the news cycle here at the end, but I just wanted to give you a heads up of where the Australians are. And then notice too, now I know they've been involved in red flags. This is probably what this is tied to. But remember that when it comes to the Australians, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, etc., that is Five Eyes, right? They will spy on U.S. citizens on behalf of the U.S. They did it to Trump. Remember that? Yeah. So not beneath them to see them breaking out over the United States is a little concerning. So, but all right, let's move on over here to the AWAX side. AWAX is pretty light. Last 2 days, just notice Southern California. It's kind of a ride up the coastline. A little bit over, that's probably going to be E2 Hawkeye, low altitude off of the eastern seaboard in towards the Chesapeake. And then these are over Germany and Belgium. And look to be man-in-the-middle circles. And then I see a little blip there out of Turkey, kind of in that little area that goes into that pinch point, headed into the Black Sea, and a little bit south of Okinawa. All right. So, and nothing down under. Okay. Let's look at the air refuelers. Since we're out here in Japan, let's just take a gander. You can see a lot. This is a good indicator of fighters out off the coast of Japan. And then you'll see activity off the North Sea, up towards the northern side of England. I mean, not England, Germany. See these traces that head out towards the Middle East? All right, we've got some broken. We've got that one over the Red Sea that's a broken trace. More than likely, they're taking out stuff in Somalia or maybe even the Houthis, and we're just not hearing too much about it. It'll probably come out in the coming days. Southern California, looks like that exercise is wrapped up. We don't have quite the frequency we had before. And you can see the whole, southern end of Florida out off of Trump. That'll be fighters for Trump. But notice the northern flank, a little more active up north, right, along that northern border coming out of Seattle, Tacoma. You can see right up there. Yeah, I mean, just all the way up. On the north side of the United States on our northern border. And we just reported in the last SITREP that northern border was very porous. So the fact that we got fighter presence up there, I do find that very interesting. Now, let's kind of get into the news cycle of what is happening out there. We'll start off over here on, and I've always said this happens in threes. This is the fifth fatal aircraft crash in the last 30 days. The second one in Arizona in the last week and a half. So pay attention to this because, again, happens in threes, means there'll be another one here in no time. And hopefully that stops the cycle, but always happens in threes. I don't know why that is, but you can see yet another mid-air plane collision in Arizona kills at least 4 people were on board those 2 aircraft total, but they haven't really released any of the other details around this. But what is the cause of all of this? I don't know. Could it be a lack of FAA? Maybe lack of air traffic control, et cetera, at some of these smaller airports. There's no telling. Now, that aircraft that crashed was a small general aviation aircraft that collided. So not a commercial one filled with a bunch of people on it. So we'll keep our ear to the ground. But it just, like I said, always happens in threes. So pay attention, all right? All right, look at this. Trump administration takes aim at the Pentagon spending. Yep, I think you can start off with the Ukraine piece because that'll probably expose a multitude of people here on the take because we know there's a lot of laundry money laundering. That is it. Oh, boy, it's going to be one of those. Anyway. We know that was taking place, and we know the Bidens were behind it. We know there's probably a multitude of others that were behind it as well. So eyes on that. But they are starting to take aim at the Pentagon. Now, I will tell you, this will get really interesting when you start looking at the contracts that are being let by the Pentagon to general contractors, right? So big programs, and that is probably where this will end up going eventually, and that is where you'll see a lot of low-hanging fruit, all right? And not that I have any insight to any of that stuff, but okay. All right. Now look at this. Trump and Musk basically discussed sending U.S. taxpayers $5,000 checks using the Doge savings. Now, all I can say is you need to add another zero on that. Based on what we have been watching and the amount of fraud, waste, and abuse that has taken place, the fact that our senators and our congressmen have been stealing from us blindly for decades, this is an insult. Like, you need to add a zero to that, all right? And you probably need to do it year over year over year, because we've paid clearly too much. If you can't manage what we've had and you're able to walk out of being a public representative with, millions in your bank account, and in some cases tens of millions, then you need to be in jail, and we need some money back. That's the way I look at this. $5,000 check, sounds great, but at the end of the day, you need to add a zero to that. Let's go over here to the headline, and let's just take a look at what was really being said. You can float 5,000, but I think you're just basically insulting us based on the amount of waste and abuse happening within our government. So it says here, Trump says that his administration is discussing giving 20% of all Doge savings back to the American taxpayers. There's even, and this is what's crazy, under consideration, the new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens. Look, 20% is definitely going to be more than $5,000. In fact, it may be more than $50,000, because the amount of waste and abuse that is happening in our country it's absolutely disgusting. And, if you just stop giving it to foreign countries, you could easily give us all money, $50,000 back each, without even blinking an eye. At the end of the day, it would stimulate the economy, and it would help people out tremendously that have been, just abused by the IRS. All right. So just floating that out there. But if I were president for the day, I would absolutely be cutting some $50,000 checks to every man, woman, and child, babies, everybody, based on the amount of abuse that has happened. And then I would lock up every single one of these politicians that have been stealing from us, we the people, taxation without representation, for decades. Okay. All right. And the ones that are screaming the most are the ones that are behind it. You know that, right? You get Schumer and all these boys out there just crying. Maxine Walters. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that lady. The one with hooves for feet. Yeah, they ought to all be in jail. They've been literally stealing from us. And the fact that we're highlighting this and they are losing their minds tells you that they are guilty. Okay. Now, this, I think, is glorious. The fact that they can't find their backside with both hands, and they're using automation to do their jobs for them, get rid of them all. We don't need them. Thousands of layoffs expected to start hitting the IRS on Thursday. I say good riddance. And, it says that, this is a Doge-driven job cuts. And we're seeing that all over our government. But they need to go and get this money back. The problem is it's out there. It's been spent. Even the Treasury, from that standpoint, trillions of dollars that they can't even trace most of it. It's just been giving checks out to people. Yeah, disgusting, quite frankly. But it's a start. This is what winning looks like, folks. All right, look at this. Nolte, Elon Musk and Doge ready to audit the gold in Fort Knox. Look, I want to hear what you have to say in the comments here in the live chat, but even in the comments over here on either YouTube or Rumble. What do you think? How much do you think is still there? You think zero? I'm willing to bet they go in, they open the vault, and there's just a couple of bars left. Probably not very much. I'd be shocked if there was any. Now, remember, this was all in there originally because that's what backed the dollar. So you have to have the gold on hand in order to print, but we've gone so far beyond it, and we owe so many countries. My guess is there is no gold left. It's probably going to be zilch. So let's see what happens, but pay close attention to that one because they're talking about opening it up and letting us see. All right. Mercy. Yeah. Fort Knox. All right. Now, this is where it's going to get really, really interesting, folks, because when I show you the map, we'll get into all of the details around this. Trump admin formally designates 8 cartels, gangs, as terrorist organizations. Now, it says cartels and gangs each received 2 separate terrorist designations. Okay. Now, there are a bunch of gangs, right? And they're all over the United States. So let me just show you a map, because you go, okay, well, most people just think they're in Mexico. It doesn't really affect us that much. We just stop the flow of drugs coming into our country. It is well beyond just drugs. It's human trafficking. It is corruption within our government. So let's just take us over here. We're going to take away that piece, and I'm going to show you the map. All right. Every one of these little color circles across the United States, you notice how deep they are. Those are cartels. Right? This is off the DEA website, and all the designators are right over here. But these are cartels all over the United States. All right? So when you hear about them designating them as terrorist organizations, trying to take down these giant, this is like the mob back in the 1920s and 30s, okay? They're everywhere, and they're in on everything, and they're making a ton, trillions and trillions of dollars. So eyes on this one, because this is where I think it's going to get really interesting, because we do know that Hezbollah has been involved with the cartels down in Mexico as well as here in the United States. So this is going to go a lot broader than what I think we all have anticipated. All right. And then here's the other piece too. Trump orders agencies to stop taxpayers' funding for illegal migrants. So all of these sanctuary cities where the money is going and these folks are getting, put up in these, 5-star hotels. Yeah, he's shutting it down. Okay. The other piece too, as we watch all of this, we talk about Mexico says Trump has deported 14,470 migrants. That's a good start. We're off to the races. Let me just show you, we're going to get into in just a minute. We'll get more into the Guantanamo Bay piece, because I want to show you the flights going in, but we'll talk about Global X, show you where they're headed. But they're saying average about 500 a day. That's basically just one flight, a little like a flight and a half, or maybe 2 737s. That's not much. That number can go up exponentially, and it will go up exponentially. Remember, right now they're taking away the criminals, and that's evident when we get into Guantanamo Bay. But this right here is glorious. All right, so let's keep going. Let me just show you. We started talking about Guantanamo Bay, aka the spa, and this is where they're sending all the bad guys. But do you see this GXA? Yeah, guess who that is? It's Global X. Remember I told you they'd sell out their own mothers for a nickel, right, or $1. This is absolutely, they're now reversing the flow. Omni, I think, is still on the take. I think they're still serving many, many masters, and so are these guys. But this right here, the fact you've got arrivals coming in from Harlingen and the other from Alexandria. Remember, Alexandria is a 72-hour holding facility. These are Airbus A320s that they're coming in on. And then, of course, over here on this side, you will see that you've got your regular stuff coming in. But that one, Palm Beach International, it's coming from West Palm. That is right near Trump. So there's somebody that is going back and forth, probably filling Trump in on a daily report status, if I was a betting man. Right? But check this out. As you see the flights that come into Guantanamo Bay, you'll notice they come around, right? They fly into this position, and then they come in and they land here, right? So they always round the horn, okay? Now, let me just show you what we got here. So first and foremost, we're going to take you over here. I want to show you the Global X flights, because you're going to see some transitioning out of Topeka, Kansas, going into some location. Oh, let me back this up, because this is where it gets really interesting. Okay. Do you see the flight I just marked my mouse on? All right. We zoom in, you get up here, Ottawa, right? That's out of Canada. So the Canadians are actually deporting via Global X down here. This goes into Guantanamo Bay, by the way. I know it shows at altitude, but they're either going into Guantanamo Bay there, and there's the Dominican Republic, or they're headed down to Colombia, down south, right? Now, notice too, you've got Harlingen, you've got Del Rio down to Central America. So they're taking people back from that standpoint. And then Salt Lake City, Topeka, Kansas, and that looks like Illinois, state of Illinois there. All right, so Global X, absolutely busy. Now, let me just show you, it doesn't stop there. We go to Colombia, the government of Colombia, military flights. You see these broken traces headed, that's probably going to Alexandria if I was a betting man, 72-hour holding facility. Now, look at the C-130s, because this is where it gets interesting. U.S. C-130s, southern border, right? But do you see this one? See it round in the horn? There we go. C-130s going into Guantanamo Bay. All right, so they are using U.S. military assets, bringing them in to Guantanamo Bay. Those are the C-130s. These, I don't really know. You see some stuff going into the Middle East and out of Europe, et cetera. It's just a normal course of business. Now, look at the C-17s, though. Right? You can see, again, round in the horn, but this is coming from the northeast, down around the horn into Guantanamo Bay, C-17s. So you got C-130s, U.S. military, U.S. C-17s. All right? They are absolutely taking these people downtown, which is glorious. These other pieces I'm not 100% on, but I would say it looks like they're reversing the flow. C-17s taking Middle Easterners back to the Middle East. Okay. All right. Let's move on. This is going to be your 4 flight. This will just give you this is probably looking at an atmospheric river. If you look at what's coming in on the West Coast, as you get the little teal flight C-130s coming out here, look at this, more stuff headed in. This looks to be headed up kind of north into Oregon and Washington State, but that's a lot of water. All right, so that's what this is probably tied to, teal, atmospheric river stuff. And then we get over, notice you got some boxes, danger boxes out over the Gulf of Mexico. Notice all the boxes down in Mexico, right? South America is pretty active with some boxes. Eastern Seaboard, danger boxes. Quebec up here, danger boxes. And then as we get over here to Europe, you'll see Iceland's still surrounded with stuff. Same thing, Northern England. Right. Okay, let's move on. All right, Biggs Army Airfield, Atlas Air coming out of or arriving from Houston Bush, 767-300. These are Intel flights. Okay. And then notice, this one, this is a 747 also coming in from Houston. That 747 is headed to Frankfurt, Germany, and then the other one's 767-300 is headed to Fort Campbell. Then we get over here to Dover. Again, 747s coming in. There's an 800 and a 400. Wide bodies, notice where they're headed. One's headed to Ramstein, the other headed to RZE Poland. I don't know what this is taking over there, quite frankly. Okay, let's keep going as we look at the board. And then U.S. Transportation Command, a lot of 747s in here. Everything from Fort Dix departure to Anchorage to Hawaii. Ramstein's on the list twice, right? Those are going to be your U.S. Transportation Commands. Then the Brits, they were in Bucharest. And you can see they've got a couple on the board as well. Let me back up so you can see the map itself. See if we got any green dots, kind of tell us where they are. Yeah, Middle East. And that sure does look like, okay, that's in Saudi. All right, southern France, etc. And this is going to be Ramstein, Germany. We drop down just to see what's up. You got a 777 coming in from Kuwait, and then another 777 coming in near Cairo, Egypt. right? No destination on that. We've got some C-130 activity, so a lot of C-17s in the mix. Okay, let's keep on going. Now, this is RZE Poland, and the big takeaway is I do see a 747 from Dover inbound to, that's a camber flight, but it is very, very light. And I've got the Italian Air Force in. That's pretty much the only one that catches my eye currently. So looks like things have definitely let up for little man Zelensky. Now check this out. If you saw some of the tweets by Trump and some of the comments he made covered by Breitbart, etc., Trump says it's time for elections in Ukraine. Yeah, you may remember that Zelensky basically declared martial law and kiboshed straight out of the deep state's playbook, the election. And so he is now sitting on, headed into year 6 of what I understand is a 5-year term. And so he is blowing right through that, has no intention on leaving office, no intention on holding elections. So Trump's basically saying, look, you're a dictator, okay? You're holding office and remaining in office. Politicians or any like the Associated Press, or I say Associated Press, any of the press within Ukraine, if they speak out against Zelensky, he sends them to the front line. So basically a death sentence. So yeah, this is what dictators do. And then the other piece too, Trump basically highlighted the fact that half the money that we have sent and half the items that have been sent to Ukraine unaccounted for. They don't know where it is, where it went. I think we got a pretty good idea. I think maybe you sick Doge on Ukraine. That would be pretty good, wouldn't it? But nonetheless, I think this guy's days are numbered, right? Yeah, they say he's not really well liked among Ukrainians. Now, I will tell you, we do have some here in the United States that do love him, and I always hear from them, even though they do appreciate what I am saying, but at the same time, they don't like me throwing shade at Tiny Dancers. So it is what it is, I guess. But okay. Now, you remember me talking about the B-52s that went into the Middle East, right? Looks like they just did some live drop munitions. So, yeah, we did capture that. By the way, we go back over here. This was in our last SITREP. You can see them coming out of the UK. It's exactly what this article talks about. Their arrival into the UK and then their flight down to the Middle East where they go dark as they head in and out over Saudi. So they're somewhere. I don't know where they ended up, but according to this, it says 2 U.S. B-52 bombers flew over the Middle East in a force projection demonstration on February 17th. And the 2 began their mission out of the UK, exactly what we said. And CENTCOM basically just says they went into the Middle East, and then they went and did some live bomb drops. So pretty cool. You do a little air refueling, and you can see a little bit of smoke there in the distance. So these guys were probably painting targets on the ground. Okay, moving on. Australia monitors unusual presence of Chinese warships. Yeah, this is why I was showing you what was going on down under. They definitely, the Chinese are making them a little bit nervous. Now, we didn't see where those flights actually went to when we were looking at that, but I will tell you, this is only the last 2 days. So if it happened outside of that window, the only one that I see where they seem to be kind of venturing out and disappearing is out there. My guess is that would be the location, but it could also be up there in the Malaysia, Southeastern Asia side of the house. All right. Okay. Let's move on with the map here. We're just going to take a gander at the live map just to show you what the latest is. You can see some cruise missile stuff happening, a couple of drone strikes taking out power over Ukraine. We get over to Israel, and you'll notice it's a little less crazy than it was, but it is still pretty active across. This is Gaza down on this end. You get up here towards the north end. This is Lebanon, and it's settled down a little bit, but that's just today. The day is still young. And so I would imagine, again, as Hamas is starting to deliver bodies versus live bodies, right? In fact, the last release, which is quite sad, was actually a mother and her 2 children that were deceased that Hamas had killed, delivering them. So horrible, absolutely horrible. But when you start delivering the deceased, that tells you there probably aren't any more live people left. So that's why I think you're going to see Israel go hot yet again. And it's why I think also you see the B-52s showing up. All right. So, okay, well, look, that's going to do it for SITREP today. For those in the live chat, sit tight. We're going to be doing our Q&A immediately after this. And you guys keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.